Hello and welcome to Chat ENG. I was not expecting to do any more videos regarding England for quite some time, but Gareth Southgate has resigned, so I'm just going to give you my reaction to that. Um, Personally, I'm gutted. I think it's the end of a good era for England, where we've got something back. As an England fan, I feel like I've got something back. They've He's created a team with an identity of a club, really, of wanting to be together, of taking pride in each other, pride in the shirt that you wear, representing your country in a way that's the right way to do it, um, and an identity of getting to the latter stages of competitions. We hadn't reached a final other than the 1966 World Cup final, which is nearly 60 years ago, and he's reached two finals in three. And I think people assume that with this group of world-class players, which you can tell by my air quotes, I don't think is true, that we have those world-class players, that anyone can take them to a final or a semi-final, and that we should be winning those competitions, and what he's overseen is a failure or an underachievement. I think those people are in Clark Cuckoo land, and I think that we'll see in the next few years just how good a job he did, because it's not nothing to keep getting teams to the latter stages of competitions. England has an indoctrinated, conditioned history of failure, and he's broken that. We've still failed, I suppose, so he's not truly broken it, but he's certainly gone a very long way towards breaking it, in the fact that we've got to these finals and we've got to the semi-finals and we've got to quarter-finals, but two finals out of four competitions is up there. It's a great achievement. And I think people just assume this is a tap-in now. Whoever gets the job, we're going to automatically get to that stage and that they'll be able to manage it over the line. I just don't think that's going to happen. Just on him, before I move on to who his successor might be, for me, he's given the country some incredible days and nights, where we've been invested right to the end of competitions. You can see how passionate he is. That the fans are massively connected to the England national football team again. When I can't speak for everybody, I can speak for myself, but I can say what I can see, which is huge sections of fans creating new songs for players. The Southgate song, the togetherness of fans. It was hard to bring fans together, in particular now, when I think club rivalries become even more tribal because of things like Twitter and social media. I think it's even harder now to bring fans together and for you to put your club rivalry to one side, and all in the name of that flag. And he has done that, and that's no mean feat. You can see the togetherness, the connection of the supporters to the team. You can see how much it means. He's done that, and he ain't going to watch my video, but if I ever saw him, I'd shake him by the hand and say thank you, because you've given me something that I felt was lost forever, really. My interest, my attachment to England was non-existent, really, in 2016, because the players didn't look like they wanted to be there. The fans were all caught up in their own agenda. There was no connection. There was no feel-good factor. There was no anticipation, really, as tournaments came around. You just went into it not even with hope anymore. And he's completely overturned that. He was the right person at the right time. And for people thinking the grass is greener on the other side and that someone's just going to come in and take this to the next stage, I think it's the opposite. I think we're going to struggle to replace him because of the impact that he's had. He's not a world-class manager. He's not close to being a world-class manager, and that's not what I'm saying. But in international management, you don't need to be. You need to cultivate an atmosphere, bring a togetherness, oversee and develop and oversee a culture. And he's done that better than anyone else could have done. And I think people assume that that's a given, and that then we're going to get someone now who's better tactically, who's on more front foot manager or whatever, and that because they have that, we're going to go and win things. That culture thing's massive. And I'm not sure it's that straightforward that, for example, Eddie Howe or Graham Potter or Maurizio Pochettino or Lee Carsley or whoever can come in and do that. Let's look at who could replace him. The favourites in the bookies' eyes anyway: Graham Potter, Eddie Howe, Maurizio Pochettino, and Lee Carsley. Graham Potter is no more qualified to do this job than Gareth Southgate. In terms of style of play, I don't think he massively excites me in terms of what I've seen in the past. I respect him. I think he's been a really good manager, and if you actually know about his journey, he's done it the hard way. He's had nothing handed to him on a plate, and I have massive respect for what he's achieved in the game. I would never ridicule him. I think he's a tremendous manager in his own right, but I don't think he is an upgrade on Southgate. Eddie Howe is Newcastle's manager. Being a good club manager doesn't mean you can be a good international manager, and I don't think he will leave Newcastle. At some point he will get sacked by Newcastle. That's inevitable, and that might even be this season. And if he thinks that's going to be this season, there's been a bit of a change in their structure, hasn't there? I think two of the key people have left who make the big decisions, so maybe he might decide he'll walk before he's pushed, because at some point they're going to want a return for the investment that they're putting in there at Newcastle. But I don't think he'll leave. As it stands right now, I don't think he would. So he would be a decent candidate, but again, I don't think he's got any background in working with the type of players we're talking about here. The Bellinghams, the Fodens, etc. I think it'd be much more of the same. Steady. This is absolutely no pun intended. He's a steady Eddie. Maurizio Pochettino never won a trophy. Well, he won one at PSG, I think. But I really like Pochettino, and I way back when would have wanted him at United. I wouldn't be disgusted if he managed England at all. It would be weird having an Argentinian managing England, but he's a bit of an honorary Brit to some degree because he's managed in England for a long time, and I think he certainly doesn't seem one of those antagonistic Argentinians like Maradona. He's got some class about him, but I think we've worked so hard to cultivate an atmosphere of, this is what it's like to play for England. This is what it means to play for England, and I just think we have to go English again if we're going to try and continue that, because it's worked so well. And then Lee Carsley is I think he's one to watch out for, because he's in the system. The FA know him, they like him. He's won trophies at the youth levels, and that's maybe where international football's going now with managers. We saw the Spain manager has managed all the different youth levels and then gone into the first team. The difference being, I think a lot of the players in that Spanish team have come with him. This England team's quite established, has a lot of senior players in it, and my worry with Lee Carsley is, would the likes of your John Stones, your Jude Bellingham, your Declan Rice, Harry Kane, if he's still going to continue to be around, Phil Foden, these big name players, high profile players, are they going to look at him and think, yeah, you float my boat? I'm not sure. That would concern me a little bit. It seems a mismatch to me. So there might have to be a change in the structure of the squad that's picked if Lee Carsley was to take over, and some younger players might have to start graduating who know him, who trust him, and he trusts them. And then I think the World Cup's an experiment. Whereas at the moment, if we take the majority of the squad with us, the World Cup's an opportunity to get to the latter stages. I don't think we'll win it. So they've got to weigh up things there. It has to match. But none of those candidates for me inspire me or make me think, oh, that's fine, now he's going to take over, we're definitely going to win the World Cup, or we're definitely going to win the Euros next time. Because I think, as I say, what Southgate's done is massively underrated. And I wouldn't rule out at all him being the England manager again one day, because I think there'll be a lot of revisionism in 2 or 3 years' time after the World Cup, when I don't think we'll do particularly well, or the Euros or whatever, where people go, do you know what? We had it. We had someone there that could get us as far as we can go, and maybe that's the case. I think I'd have to say in this tournament, it's been hard for him because he's got caught between a rock and a hard place. I think he's gone against his better judgment with the squad that he's picked. He's picked players that he thinks he should because they're development. Sorry, technically better players than like obviously your likes of Calvin Phillips, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford. Those mainstays really that he would have in the team. He's removed them and brought younger players in who are probably technically better players, and we would all agree that's the right thing to do. But then he's not really trusted them. He's not given them. He's not given them um, the right stage to go and play because he's not picked a formation that suits them. He's not picked a formation that suits Harry Kane. He's not picked players around Harry Kane that suit him, and he's been caught in the middle of two approaches. He was never going to go right. Screw what you lot think. I'm going to pick Calvin Phillips, Raheem Sterling, and Marcus Rashford because they're my guys, and that's pace around Harry Kane and stuff like that, and not play Phil Foden or Jude Bellingham, and not pick Kobbie Mainoo. He's not going to do that. But equally, he's picked those other players, and he's not really known what to do with them. And I think that's been difficult for him. In the same respect, even despite that, we've still reached the final, and even despite the fact I think he's probably been giving instructions to these players that they've probably thought, come on, let's just let us off the leash and let us go and play. They've obviously respected him because the way they've played isn't the way they would play for their clubs. By all accounts, the players wanted him to stay. I think that speaks volumes because there's some big name players in there. And I said before about Lee Carsley, you possibly could think, what would Jude Bellingham, does he really think Gareth Southgate's an elite guy that he can trust? Does Declan Rice, does John Stones, who's used to Guardiola, does Kyle Walker, who's used to Guardiola, etc., Phil Foden? But he's brought them into the fold. He's been with them for a while, so I think they do have that respect for him. So I think he's a hard act to follow personally, and for me, I'm sad because I just hope it's not the end of what we've built, which has been special. Because I had two teams growing up, Man United and England, and there was a period of time where it wasn't like that anymore, and I feel like I've got that back. So thank you, Gareth, if you ever watch Chat ENG, and just don't come to Man United because I don't think you'd be a very good club manager.